In the heart of Boston's North End, where the aroma of garlic dances with secrets, there's a kitchen where more than just food is simmering. Isabella Rossi, a widowed chef guarding her family's legacy, thought she'd tasted all life had to offer. Until he walked in. A doctor with hands that once held hearts, now learning to knead dough and awaken hers. But between family traditions, a restaurant on the brink of change, and a past that refuses to stay buried, their newfound love is about to be tested. Get ready to be swept away by The Cooking Class, a story of second chances that will stir your soul, break your heart, and leave you breathless with the delicious possibility of a love as rich and fulfilling as life's most exquisite recipe. Prepare to feel. Chapter 1. A pinch of regret. The scent of garlic sizzling in olive oil, a fragrance that had perfumed the air of countless kitchens in her life, failed to lift Isabella Rossi's spirits this crisp October morning. Outside, Boston's North End was waking up, the sounds of delivery trucks rumbling on cobblestone streets and the distant clang of a church bell filtering through the slightly open window of Bella Vita. But inside, a heavy silence hung between Isabella and her son, Marco. Isabella's hands, weathered and strong from years of kneading dough and chopping vegetables with the precision of a surgeon, moved almost mechanically as she stirred the simmering marinara sauce. The rich, redolent aroma of tomatoes, basil, and oregano usually brought her a sense of peace, a connection to her ancestors who had brought these recipes from the old country. Today, it only reminded her of what was at stake. "Mama, it's just a suggestion," Marco said, his voice echoing slightly in the pre-dawn quiet of the restaurant. He leaned against the stainless steel counter, his youthful face so like his father's, creased with a mixture of frustration and pleading. "A few updates to the menu, a little social media, it's what people want." Isabella sighed, the sound like the gentle deflation of a perfectly risen soufflé. "People want good food, Marco. Authentic food. A food that tells a story." Her story, she thought, the story of generations of Rossis who had poured their love and their lives into their cooking. "But they also want new," Marco insisted, pushing a strand of dark hair off his forehead. "They want Instagrammable dishes, Mama. They want to see Bella Vita trending." Isabella stopped stirring, her gaze fixed on the bubbling sauce. Trending. The word felt foreign, jarring, like a discordant note in a harmonious melody. She understood the need to adapt, to evolve. She wasn't blind to the changing world, to the sleek, modern restaurants popping up all over Boston, with their fusion menus and minimalist decor. But Bella Vita wasn't just a restaurant, it was a legacy. It was the embodiment of her late husband, Antonio's dream, a dream they'd built together, brick by brick, recipe by recipe. "Your father wouldn't have wanted this," she said softly, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. The unacknowledged grief, a constant companion since Antonio's sudden passing 5 years ago, tightened its grip around her heart. She felt it in every creak of the old floorboards, every faded photograph on the wall, every handwritten recipe card stained with the evidence of countless meals. Marco ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of Antonio that it brought a fresh wave of pain to Isabella's chest. "Papa's gone, Mama," he said, his voice gentler now. "And we have to move forward." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Isabella knew he was right, logically, but her heart, steeped in tradition and memory, resisted. She looked around the kitchen, at the copper pots hanging from the ceiling, the well-worn wooden table where she and Antonio had shared countless meals, the old brick oven that had baked thousands of pizzas, each one a testament to their love and their labor. Could she really change all of this? Could she bear to erase the traces of Antonio, of their shared life, in the name of progress? A sudden, sharp rap on the back door startled her. "Must be Giovanni with the produce," she murmured, grateful for the interruption. She wiped her hands on her apron, the familiar cotton a small comfort against the turmoil within her. Giovanni, a burly man with a jovial face and a booming laugh, entered with his usual flurry of activity, carrying crates overflowing with vibrant vegetables, deep purple eggplants, bright red peppers, and bunches of fragrant basil that filled the kitchen with a fresh, earthy scent. "Buongiorno, Isabella."
"Marco."
He greeted them, his voice full of warmth. "Another beautiful day in paradise. Though I hear there's a storm brewing," he added, winking at Marco, clearly having overheard their conversation. Giovanni was more than just their produce supplier. He was part of the extended Bella Vita family, a fixture in their lives for as long as Isabella could remember. He had known Antonio since they were boys in the old country, and his opinions carried weight. "Giovanni, tell Marco," Isabella said, turning to him with a pleading look. "Tell him that Bella Vita is perfect as it is." Giovanni chuckled, setting down the crates with a thud. Isabella, always the traditionalist. But even the best recipes need a little tweaking sometimes, no?" He glanced at Marco, a subtle understanding passing between them. "A little fresh basil can't hurt, eh?" Isabella felt a flicker of annoyance. Even Giovanni, her oldest friend, seemed to be siding with Marco. She felt a wave of loneliness wash over her, a feeling that had become all too familiar in recent years. She was surrounded by people, by family, by the bustling life of the restaurant, yet she felt utterly alone in her struggle to hold onto the past. As Giovanni and Marco began unloading the vegetables, their conversation turning to the upcoming menu for the week, Isabella moved to the window, gazing out at the awakening street. The sky was beginning to lighten, the deep blue of pre-dawn giving way to streaks of pink and orange. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of the sea and the promise of another autumn day. She thought of the cooking class she was scheduled to teach later that morning, a new venture she had reluctantly agreed to at Marco's urging. "It will be good for you, Mama," he had said. "Get you out of the kitchen, meeting new people." She doubted it. She preferred the solitude of her kitchen, the familiar rhythm of her work, the comforting presence of her memories. But she had agreed, partly to appease Marco, and partly because a small, insistent voice inside her whispered that maybe, just maybe, she needed a change too. As she watched a group of early morning joggers pass by, their breath misting in the cold air, Isabella felt a sudden, unexpected pang of longing. Not for the past, not for Antonio, but for something more. Something she couldn't quite name, a flicker of hope that maybe, even at 57, life still held some surprises for her. A new ingredient, perhaps, to spice up the familiar recipe of her life. The thought, as fleeting as the scent of basil, brought a faint smile to her lips. She still held some reservations. She wasn't ready to abandon all that she and Antonio built. However, for the first time in a while, the future didn't seem a completely bleak and empty landscape. Chapter 2. The Aroma of Change. The morning sun, now fully risen, streamed through the large windows of the Bella Vita dining room, illuminating the red and white checkered tablecloths and the rustic wooden chairs. The scent of freshly brewed espresso mingled with the lingering aroma of basil and tomatoes from the kitchen, creating a warm, inviting atmosphere. Isabella, dressed in a crisp white chef's jacket over a simple black dress, surveyed the room with a critical eye. Everything had to be perfect. Her cooking class, a group of 8 eager students, were due to arrive any minute. Isabella had spent the past week preparing, meticulously planning each lesson, each recipe, each detail. It was her way of controlling the chaos, of imposing order on a world that felt increasingly unpredictable. She checked the arrangement of the individual cooking stations, each equipped with a cutting board, a set of gleaming knives, and a small, portable stovetop. Bowls of fresh ingredients, vibrant green basil, plump red tomatoes, creamy white mozzarella were artfully arranged, waiting to be transformed. The first to arrive was a tall, slender woman with a nervous smile and a cascade of silver hair. "Good morning," she said, her voice slightly hesitant.
"I'm Eleanor."
Isabella smiled back, her initial apprehension easing slightly. "Welcome, Eleanor."
"I'm Isabella."
"You can choose any station you like." One by one, the other students trickled in, a young couple, giggling and holding hands, a retired teacher with a twinkle in her eye, a middle-aged businessman in a crisp suit, looking slightly out of place, and finally, him. He walked in with an air of quiet confidence, his movements graceful and deliberate. He was tall, with a lean build honed by years of physical activity, and his salt and pepper hair, neatly trimmed, framed a face that was both handsome and kind. His eyes, a striking shade of hazel, met Isabella's with a warmth that sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. He was dressed casually, in a well-worn leather jacket and a soft, gray sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. There was a hint of weariness around his eyes, a suggestion of battles fought and won, but his smile was genuine, disarming. "Good morning," he said, his voice a deep, resonant baritone that seemed to vibrate through the room. "I'm Dr. Samuel Harding, but please call me Sam." Isabella found herself momentarily speechless, caught off guard by his presence, by the unexpected intensity of his gaze. She cleared her throat, feeling a blush creep up her cheeks.
Welcome, Sam. I'm Isabella Rossi.
"It's a pleasure to have you." As the students settled into their stations, Isabella began the class with a brief introduction, explaining the basics of Italian cuisine, the importance of fresh, high-quality ingredients, and the philosophy of cooking with love and passion. Her voice, usually steady and confident, wavered slightly when her gaze met Sam's, who was watching her with an attentive, almost amused expression. "Today," she announced, forcing herself to focus, "we'll be making a simple pasta dish, spaghetti aglio e olio. It's a classic, a staple of Italian cooking, and it's all about the balance of flavors." She demonstrated each step with practiced ease, her hands moving swiftly and surely as she minced garlic, chopped parsley, and grated Parmesan cheese. She explained the importance of using the right kind of olive oil, the proper technique for cooking pasta al dente, and the secret to creating a creamy, emulsified sauce without using cream. The students followed along, their initial awkwardness gradually giving way to enthusiasm as they began to master the techniques. Sam, however, seemed to be struggling. He fumbled with the garlic press, dropped a handful of parsley, and nearly burned the olive oil. Isabella, watching him from the corner of her eye, couldn't help but smile. There was something endearing about his clumsiness, a refreshing contrast to the controlled precision he must have possessed as a cardiac surgeon. "Here, let me help you," she said, approaching his station. She stood beside him, her body close to his, and gently guided his hands as he minced the garlic. The scent of his cologne, a subtle blend of sandalwood and citrus, filled her senses, momentarily distracting her from the task at hand. She felt the warmth of his body radiating through his sweater, the slight tremor in his fingers as her hands covered his. "It's all about the rhythm," she explained, her voice softer now, almost intimate. "You have to feel the garlic, let it release its aroma, its flavor." He looked at her, his hazel eyes searching hers. "I'm used to following precise instructions," he said, a hint of self-deprecating humor in his voice. "In surgery, there's no room for improvisation. But in cooking," Isabella replied, her gaze lingering on his, "there's always room for a little magic." A spark ignited between them, a silent acknowledgement of something deeper, something unspoken. The air crackled with an unexpected energy, a connection that transcended the simple act of cooking. Isabella felt a warmth spread through her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years, a stirring of emotions she thought long buried. The rest of the class passed in a blur. Isabella moved from station to station, offering guidance, sharing tips, and answering questions. But her awareness remained centered on Sam, on the way he listened intently to her instructions, the way he smiled at her across the room, the way his presence filled the space with a quiet, compelling energy. As the students proudly presented their finished dishes, the room filled with the aroma of garlic, olive oil, and perfectly cooked pasta. The air buzzed with chatter and laughter, the sound of newfound friendships and shared accomplishment. Isabella, watching them, felt a sense of satisfaction, a warmth that had nothing to do with the heat of the kitchen. Sam's pasta, while slightly less than perfect, was surprisingly good. He had managed to capture the essence of the dish, the simple elegance of the flavors, the balance of textures. He looked at Isabella with a hopeful expression, a silent question in his eyes. "It's delicious," she said, her voice genuine. You have a natural talent, Sam. His smile widened, a flash of white teeth against his tanned skin. Beginner's luck, I suspect. But I'm willing to keep practicing. The class ended with a shared meal, the students gathering around the large table, laughing, talking, and enjoying the fruits of their labor. Isabella found herself seated next to Sam, their conversation flowing easily, effortlessly. He told her about his years as a surgeon, the long hours, the demanding work, the satisfaction of saving lives. She shared her own stories about her childhood in Italy, her passion for cooking, her love for Antonio. As the afternoon drew to a close and the students began to depart, Sam lingered, helping Isabella clear the tables and wash the dishes. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with a sense of shared understanding, a quiet intimacy. Thank you, Isabella, he said, his voice soft, his gaze lingering on hers. For a wonderful day. For teaching me something new. Thank you, Sam, she replied, her heart beating a little faster. For reminding me that there's still magic in the world. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down her spine. I have a feeling, he said, his voice low and husky, that this is just the beginning. He reached out, his hand gently brushing a stray strand of hair from her cheek. The touch, light as a feather, sent a jolt of electricity through her. She looked at him, her eyes searching his, and saw a reflection of her own longing, her own awakening. The aroma of change, once a source of fear and uncertainty, now held a different scent, a fragrance of possibility, of hope, of a future she hadn't dared to imagine. And for the first time in a long time, Isabella felt a stirring of excitement, a sense of anticipation for what tomorrow might bring. The simple act of teaching a cooking class, of sharing her passion, had opened a door to a world she thought long closed, a world where love, like a good recipe, could still surprise and delight. Chapter 3. Simmering Tensions. The following week flew by in a flurry of activity. Isabella found herself increasingly preoccupied with thoughts of Sam, replaying their interactions in her mind, analyzing every word, every glance, every touch. She chided herself for her foolishness, reminding herself that she was a widow, a mother, a businesswoman, not a schoolgirl with a crush. Yet, she couldn't deny the spark that had ignited between them, the unexpected connection that had made her feel alive again. Marco, sensing her distraction, grew increasingly frustrated. The tension between them, which had been simmering beneath the surface, began to boil over. He had presented her with a detailed proposal for modernizing Bella Vita, complete with mock-ups of a new logo, a revamped menu featuring trendy dishes with fusion influences, and a plan for launching a social media campaign. Mama, you haven't even looked at it, he accused one evening, after a particularly busy dinner service. They were sitting at their usual table in the back of the kitchen, the remnants of their late-night meal growing cold. Isabella sighed, pushing the proposal aside. I don't need to look at it, Marco. I know what it says. It says you want to erase everything your father and I built. That's not fair, Mama, Marco retorted, his voice rising. I want to build on what you and Papa created. I want to bring Bella Vita into the 21st century. Bella Vita is already perfect, Isabella insisted, her voice tight with emotion. It doesn't need to be modernized. It needs to survive, Mama, Marco exclaimed, slamming his hand on the table, making Isabella jump. We're losing customers to those new places downtown. They're all over Instagram, TikTok, we need to be there too. We have our regulars, Isabella countered, her voice trembling slightly. The people who appreciate authentic Italian food, the people who have been coming here for years. But they're getting older, Mama, Marco said, his voice softening slightly, but his eyes still blazing with frustration. We need to attract a younger crowd, a new generation of customers. Isabella felt a pang of fear. He was right, of course. She knew it deep down. But the thought of changing Bella Vita, of altering the recipes that had been passed down through generations, of sacrificing tradition for trendiness, filled her with a deep sense of unease. I need time, Marco, she said, her voice weary. I need to think about it. Time is running out, Mama, Marco warned. We need to make a decision before Christmas. The holiday season is our busiest time, and we need to be ready. The mention of Christmas, a time of family and tradition, only deepened Isabella's anxiety. It was Antonio's favorite holiday, and the restaurant had always been filled with a special kind of magic during that time of year. The thought of celebrating it without him, of facing the prospect of a drastically changed Bella Vita, was almost unbearable. Their argument ended in a stalemate, the unresolved tension hanging heavy in the air. Marco stormed off, leaving Isabella alone in the quiet kitchen, surrounded by the ghosts of Christmases past. She felt a familiar wave of loneliness wash over her, the ache of Antonio's absence a constant, dull throb in her heart. The next morning, Isabella arrived at the restaurant early, hoping to find some solace in the familiar routine of preparing for the day. She was surprised to find Sam already there, waiting for her outside the back door.
Sam?
"What are you doing here?" she asked, her heart skipping a beat. He smiled, his hazel eyes crinkling at the corners. "I thought I'd come early and help you set up for the class," he said. "And maybe steal a few minutes of your time before the others arrive." Isabella felt a blush creep up her cheeks. She couldn't deny the pleasure she felt at seeing him. The way his presence seemed to brighten the entire morning. "That's very kind of you," she said, unlocking the door. They worked together in companionable silence, setting up the cooking stations, arranging the ingredients, and preparing the coffee. The simple act of sharing these tasks, of working side by side, created a sense of intimacy, a quiet connection that eased Isabella's troubled mind. "You seem distracted," Sam said, his voice gentle, observant. "Is everything all right?" Isabella hesitated, unsure whether to confide in him. But his gaze was so sincere, so understanding, that she found herself pouring out her concerns, telling him about Marco's proposal, her fears about changing Bella Vita, her struggle to balance tradition and modernity. Sam listened patiently, his expression thoughtful. "It's a difficult dilemma," he said, when she had finished. "But I understand your hesitation. Tradition is important. It's what connects us to our past, to our roots." "But Marco is right, too," Isabella said, sighing. "We can't just stay stuck in the past." "Perhaps," Sam suggested, a gentle smile playing on his lips, "there's a way to find a compromise. A way to honor the past while embracing the future." He reached out, his hand gently covering hers. The touch, brief and innocent, sent a familiar spark through her. "Maybe," he continued, his voice low and husky, "you could experiment with a few new dishes, see how your customers react. Introduce some modern elements, but keep the core of Bella Vita intact." His words, so simple yet so insightful, resonated with Isabella. It was a solution she hadn't considered, a way to bridge the gap between her and Marco, between tradition and innovation. She looked at Sam, her eyes filled with gratitude. "That's a good idea," she said, her voice filled with a newfound hope. "A very good idea." The tension that had been simmering within her began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm, of clarity. Sam's presence, his support, his understanding, had given her a new perspective, a way forward. She realized that she wasn't alone in this struggle, that she had someone she could rely on, someone who understood her, someone who cared. The aroma of change still lingered, but now it was mixed with a scent of hope, of possibility, of a future that seemed a little less daunting, a little more inviting. And as she looked at Sam, at his kind eyes and his gentle smile, she knew that she was ready to face it, whatever it might bring. Chapter 4. The Doctor's Hands. The second cooking class proved to be even more eventful than the first. Isabella, buoyed by Sam's suggestion and her renewed sense of hope, decided to introduce a slightly more challenging dish, risotto ai funghi porcini. She explained the intricacies of cooking risotto, the slow, patient process of adding broth, stirring constantly and achieving the perfect creamy texture. "It's a labor of love," she said, her gaze meeting Sam's across the room. "Just like many things in life." The students, now more comfortable with each other and with Isabella, eagerly embraced the challenge. Sam, however, seemed to be struggling again. He overcooked the onions, added too much broth at once, and stirred with a frantic energy that threatened to turn the rice into a gluey mess. Isabella, watching him, couldn't help but feel a mixture of amusement and tenderness. She approached his station, her movements graceful and deliberate. "Sam," she said softly, "let me show you." She stood beside him, her body close to his, and placed her hands over his, guiding his movements as he stirred the risotto. The scent of his cologne, that familiar blend of sandalwood and citrus, filled her senses, sending a shiver of awareness through her. She felt the warmth of his body, the slight tremor in his hands as her fingers intertwined with his. "It's like a dance," she explained, her voice low and intimate. "You have to feel the rhythm of the rice, the way it absorbs the broth, the way it slowly releases its starch." He looked at her, his hazel eyes searching hers. "I'm used to being in control," he said, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "In the operating room, I'm the one calling the shots. But in the kitchen," Isabella replied, her gaze lingering on his, "you have to surrender to the process. You have to trust the ingredients, trust your instincts, trust me." The air crackled with an undeniable tension, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken attraction that simmered between them. Isabella felt her heart beating faster, her breath catching in her throat. She was acutely aware of his proximity, of the way his body almost touched hers, of the way his eyes seemed to see straight through to her soul. As they stirred the risotto together, their hands moving in perfect harmony, Isabella noticed the scars on Sam's hands. They were faint, almost invisible, but she could see the telltale marks of countless surgeries, the evidence of a life dedicated to healing. "Your hands," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They've saved so many lives." He looked down at his hands, a flicker of sadness crossing his face. "They've also failed," he said, his voice heavy with a burden she couldn't fully comprehend. "Sometimes, despite our best efforts, we can't always fix things." Isabella felt a pang of empathy for him, a deep understanding of the weight he carried. She knew the feeling of loss, the pain of helplessness, the burden of responsibility. She reached out, her fingers gently tracing the lines on his palm, her touch light and comforting. "But you tried," she said, her voice soft and sincere. "You did everything you could. That's all anyone can ask." He looked at her, his eyes filled with a gratitude that went beyond words. The moment stretched, suspended in time, the only sound the gentle bubbling of the risotto. Isabella felt a connection to him that was deeper than anything she had experienced in years, a bond forged in shared vulnerability, in mutual understanding, in the unspoken language of the heart. The spell was broken by the timer, signaling that the risotto was ready. They stepped back, a slight awkwardness settling between them, the intensity of the moment lingering in the air. Isabella busied herself with adding the finishing touches, stirring in the porcini mushrooms, the Parmesan cheese, and a knob of butter. The students, oblivious to the undercurrents between Isabella and Sam, eagerly tasted their creations. The room filled with murmurs of appreciation, the sound of satisfied palates, and newfound confidence. Sam's risotto, surprisingly, was quite good. He had managed to salvage it, to transform it from a potential disaster into a respectable dish. "Not bad, Doctor," Isabella said, a teasing smile playing on her lips. "For a beginner." He grinned, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "I had a good teacher," he replied, his gaze lingering on hers. As the class drew to a close and the students began to depart, Sam lingered again, helping Isabella clean up. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with a sense of shared accomplishment, a quiet intimacy. "I was thinking," Sam said, his voice hesitant, "maybe we could have dinner sometime? Just the two of us?" Isabella's heart skipped a beat. She had been hoping he would ask, yet she still felt a flutter of nervousness, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I would like that," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He smiled, a slow, warm smile that reached his eyes.
Great.
"How about Friday? We could try that new place downtown, the one with the fusion menu?" Isabella laughed, the sound light and carefree. "Are you trying to corrupt me, Doctor?" "Maybe," he replied, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Or maybe I'm just trying to broaden your horizons. They settled on a compromise. Dinner at a small, family-run trattoria in the North End, a place that served traditional Italian food with a modern twist. As Sam left, promising to pick her up on Friday, Isabella felt a surge of anticipation, a sense of excitement she hadn't experienced in years. She realized that she was not only rediscovering her passion for cooking, but also her capacity for love, for connection, for a future that held the promise of something new, something unexpected, something magical. The doctor's hands, once instruments of healing, were now gently guiding her towards a new chapter in her life, a chapter filled with the possibility of second chances, of renewed hope, and of a love that, like a perfectly cooked risotto, was both comforting and exhilarating. Chapter 5. Sunday Dinner Revelation. Sunday dinner at Bella Vita was a sacred tradition, a weekly ritual that brought together family and friends for a feast of food, laughter, and shared memories. Isabella, despite her anxieties about the future of the restaurant, always looked forward to these gatherings, to the warmth of the familiar faces, the comforting aromas of her mother's recipes, the sense of belonging that filled the air. This Sunday, however, felt different. The tension between Isabella and Marco had not dissipated, and the upcoming dinner with Sam on Friday loomed large in her mind, filling her with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She found herself distracted, her usual meticulous preparations disrupted by a flurry of conflicting emotions. As she stirred the sugo, the rich tomato sauce that was the heart of so many Italian dishes, she thought of Sam, of his gentle hands, his kind eyes, his quiet understanding. She wondered what he was doing, what he was thinking, whether he was as nervous about their date as she was. She chided herself for her foolishness, reminding herself that she was a grown woman, not a teenager with a crush. Yet, she couldn't deny the flutter of anticipation that filled her whenever she thought of him. Marco, sensing her distraction, tried to engage her in conversation, attempting to bridge the gap that had grown between them. "Mama, I've been thinking about what you said," he began, his voice hesitant. "About finding a compromise." Isabella looked at him, surprised. She had expected him to continue pushing his own agenda, to dismiss her concerns as outdated and irrelevant. "And?" she asked, her voice cautious. "And maybe we could start small," he continued. "Introduce a few new dishes as specials, see how they're received. We could also update the website, make it more user-friendly, add some photos of the food." Isabella felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't everything she wanted, but it was a start. It was a sign that Marco was willing to listen, to compromise, to respect her wishes. "That sounds reasonable," she said, her voice softening. "And maybe," Marco added, a tentative smile playing on his lips, "we could even have a tasting event. Invite some food bloggers, some local critics, get some feedback." Isabella hesitated. The idea of inviting outsiders, of exposing Bella Vita to potential criticism, made her uneasy. But she knew that Marco was right, that they needed to adapt to the changing times, to reach a wider audience. "We'll see," she said, her voice noncommittal. As the guests began to arrive, the restaurant filled with the usual cacophony of voices, the clinking of glasses, the laughter of children. Giovanni, as always, was the life of the party, regaling everyone with his stories, his jokes, his infectious enthusiasm. Isabella's son, Leo, a quiet, thoughtful young man who was studying architecture at a local university, arrived with his girlfriend, Sarah, a bright, bubbly art student. The conversation flowed easily, effortlessly, the familiar rhythms of family and friendship easing Isabella's anxieties. They talked about their week, their work, their plans for the future. Leo and Sarah shared their dreams of designing sustainable buildings, of creating art that reflected the beauty and complexity of the world. Giovanni recounted his latest adventures at the farmer's market, his encounters with eccentric vendors, and unusual produce. As they sat down to eat, the conversation turned to the restaurant, to Marco's proposal, to the future of Bella Vita. Isabella felt a knot of tension tighten in her stomach. She knew that this was a topic that could easily spark another argument, another round of accusations and recriminations. So, Marco, Giovanni began, his voice jovial but his eyes serious. What's this I hear about you wanting to change things around here? Marco, caught off guard, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. It's just some ideas, he said, his voice defensive. Ways to modernize the restaurant, attract new customers. Modernize? Giovanni scoffed, his eyebrows raised. Bella Vita doesn't need modernizing. It's perfect as it is. But things are changing, Giovanni, Marco insisted. We need to keep up with the times. Tradition is important, Marco, Leo interjected, his voice calm but firm. It's what gives us our identity, our sense of belonging. But tradition can't be stagnant, Sarah added, her voice equally passionate. It needs to evolve, to adapt, to remain relevant. Isabella listened to the conversation, her heart torn between opposing viewpoints. She understood both sides, the need to preserve the past and the need to embrace the future. She felt a surge of pride in her sons, in their intelligence, their passion, their commitment to their beliefs. As the debate continued, Isabella felt a sudden urge to share her own feelings, to reveal the secret that had been weighing on her heart. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. There's something I need to tell you all, she said, her voice quiet but firm. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. I've met someone. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. Isabella felt a blush creep up her cheeks, her heart pounding in her chest. She had expected shock, surprise, perhaps even disapproval. But the reaction was unexpected. Marco, his eyes widening, looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Who is he, Mama? He asked, his voice gentle. His name is Sam, Isabella replied, her voice gaining strength. He's a doctor. He's been taking my cooking class. Giovanni, his face breaking into a wide grin, let out a hearty laugh. Well, Isabella, it's about time. Leo and Sarah, their eyes sparkling with amusement, exchanged knowing glances. Congratulations, Mama, Leo said, his voice warm and supportive. Isabella felt a wave of relief wash over her, the tension in her body easing. She had expected resistance, judgment, but instead, she was met with acceptance, understanding, even encouragement. She realized that her family, her friends, her community were not obstacles to her happiness, but rather her greatest source of strength and support. The revelation, instead of creating division, had brought them closer, forging a new bond of understanding and shared hope. And as she looked around the table, at the faces of the people she loved, she knew that she was not alone, that she had a family that would stand by her, no matter what the future might bring. This Sunday dinner, a tradition that had always been about preserving the past, had unexpectedly become a celebration of new beginnings, of second chances, of a future filled with the promise of love and happiness. Chapter 6. Market Mornings and Memories. The crisp autumn air nipped at Isabella's cheeks as she and Sam strolled through the bustling Haymarket, Boston's oldest open-air market. The stalls overflowed with a vibrant tapestry of colors, the deep reds of cranberries, the bright oranges of pumpkins, the earthy browns of freshly dug potatoes. The air was thick with the scent of ripe apples, pungent cheeses, and the salty tang of the nearby harbor. It was a sensory feast, a vibrant reminder of the bounty of the season. Isabella had always loved market mornings, the ritual of selecting the freshest ingredients, the friendly banter with the vendors, the sense of connection to the land and the sea. It was a tradition she had shared with Antonio, a weekly pilgrimage they had made together for years. Today, however, felt different. Walking beside Sam, her hand brushing against his occasionally, filled her with a nervous excitement, a sense of anticipation that both thrilled and unnerved her. "This is amazing," Sam said, his eyes wide with wonder. He had confessed to her earlier that he rarely ventured out to markets, preferring the convenience of supermarkets. His life, he had explained, had been so consumed by his work, by the demands of his profession, that he had neglected the simple pleasures, the everyday joys that made life so rich and rewarding. Isabella smiled, her heart warmed by his genuine enthusiasm. "It's a little piece of Italy, right here in Boston," she said. Antonio and I used to come here every week. We'd spend hours browsing, talking to the farmers, finding the best ingredients for Bella Vita. The mention of Antonio's name brought a flicker of sadness to her eyes, a shadow of the grief that still lingered. Sam, sensing her shift in mood, gently squeezed her hand. He would have loved this, he said, his voice soft and understanding. Isabella nodded, her throat tightening with emotion. He would have loved you, she said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. She blushed, embarrassed by her candor, but Sam didn't seem fazed. He smiled, his hazel eyes crinkling at the corners. I think I would have liked him too, he replied. He sounds like a man who appreciated the good things in life. They continued their stroll, stopping at various stalls to sample cheeses, taste olives, and admire the colorful displays of fruits and vegetables. Isabella, drawing on her years of experience, shared her knowledge with Sam, explaining the different varieties of apples, the best way to choose a ripe melon, the secrets to selecting the perfect artichoke. Sam listened intently, his eyes filled with admiration. He was fascinated by her expertise, by her passion for food, by her deep connection to her heritage. He realized that he was not only learning about Italian cuisine, but also about Isabella herself, about the woman behind the chef's jacket, about the heart that beat beneath the surface. As they approached a stall overflowing with fragrant herbs, Isabella stopped, her attention caught by a particular scent. It was rosemary, the herb that had always held a special significance for her. It reminded her of her childhood in Italy, of her grandmother's garden, of the warm, comforting aroma that filled their home during the holidays. Rosemary, she said, her voice soft and wistful. It's the herb of remembrance. Sam, noticing the faraway look in her eyes, reached out and gently touched a sprig of the fragrant herb. It smells like home, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Isabella looked at him, surprised. How did you know? She asked. He shrugged, a hint of shyness in his smile. I don't know, he replied. It just felt that way. A connection sparked between them, a silent understanding that transcended words. They stood there for a moment, lost in their own thoughts, their own memories, the bustling market fading into the background. Isabella felt a sense of peace wash over her, a feeling of being understood, of being seen, of being connected. As they continued their shopping, Isabella found herself sharing more and more of her past with Sam, telling him stories about her childhood, her family, her early years in America. She talked about her dreams, her aspirations, her struggles to build Bella Vita with Antonio. She spoke of her love for her sons, her pride in their accomplishments, her fears for their future. Sam listened patiently, his eyes filled with empathy and understanding. He shared his own stories, too, telling her about his childhood, his decision to become a doctor, his dedication to his patients. He spoke of his difficult divorce, the pain of separation from his children, his struggle to find meaning and purpose in his life after retirement. Their conversation flowed easily, effortlessly, the barriers between them gradually dissolving. They discovered shared interests, common values, a mutual appreciation for the simple things in life. They laughed, they reminisced, they confided in each other, their connection deepening with every passing moment. As they left the market, their arms laden with bags of fresh produce, Isabella felt a sense of lightness, of joy, that she hadn't experienced in years. The market morning, a tradition she had once associated with loss and grief, had become a symbol of new beginnings, of hope, of a future filled with possibilities. Walking beside Sam, her hand in his, she felt a sense of belonging, a feeling of being home, not in a place, but in a person. And as she looked at him, at his kind eyes and his gentle smile, she knew that she was falling in love, slowly, surely, irrevocably. The memories of the past, once a source of pain, were now becoming a bridge to the future, a foundation upon which to build a new life, a new love, a new Bella Vita. Chapter 7. A Taste of the Past. Friday evening arrived with a flurry of nervous anticipation. Isabella found herself fussing over her appearance, trying on different outfits, agonizing over her hair and makeup. She felt like a teenager preparing for her first date, a mixture of excitement and apprehension swirling within her. She hadn't felt this way in years, not since she first met Antonio, and the unfamiliar sensations both thrilled and unnerved her. She finally settled on a simple, elegant black dress that accentuated her figure, a silver necklace that had belonged to her mother, and a touch of red lipstick that added a splash of color to her otherwise understated look. She spritzed on a light perfume, the same fragrance she had worn on her wedding day, a scent that evoked memories of love, hope, and new beginnings. When Sam arrived, promptly at 7, Isabella's heart skipped a beat. He looked even more handsome than she remembered, dressed in a dark suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and lean physique. He held a bouquet of flowers, a mix of lilies and roses, their delicate fragrance filling the air. "You look stunning," he said, his voice filled with admiration. His hazel eyes, warm and appreciative, swept over her, making her feel beautiful, desired, and utterly alive. "Thank you," Isabella replied, her voice slightly breathless. "You look very handsome yourself." They stood there for a moment, caught in a silent exchange of glances, the air thick with unspoken emotions. The years seemed to melt away, the weight of their past experiences fading into the background. They were simply a man and a woman, embarking on a new adventure, a journey into the unknown, their hearts filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The trattoria Sam had chosen was a small, intimate establishment tucked away on a quiet side street in the North End. It was the kind of place that felt both familiar and new, a perfect blend of tradition and modernity. The walls were adorned with vintage photographs of Italy. The tables were covered with crisp white linen, and the air was filled with the murmur of conversation and the tantalizing aroma of authentic Italian cuisine. As they were seated, Isabella noticed a small, framed photograph on the wall near their table. It was a picture of a young couple, standing in front of a picturesque Italian village, their faces radiant with love and happiness. The woman in the photograph bore a striking resemblance to Isabella, her dark hair, her bright eyes, her warm smile echoing across the years. "That looks like you," Sam said, noticing her gaze. Isabella nodded, her heart filled with a bittersweet nostalgia. "It's my grandmother," she said, her voice soft and wistful. "That picture was taken on her wedding day, in the village where I grew up." Sam studied the photograph, his eyes filled with interest. "She was beautiful," he said. "And you have her eyes." Isabella felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of connection to her past, to her heritage, to the woman who had shaped her life in so many ways. She shared stories about her grandmother, about her childhood in Italy, about the traditions and values that had been passed down through generations. Sam listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. He was captivated by her stories, by her passion for her culture, by the depth of her emotions. He realized that he was not only falling in love with Isabella, but also with her past, with the rich tapestry of experiences that had made her the woman she was. As they ordered their food, Isabella suggested they try the specialita della casa, a dish called caciacco, a traditional Tuscan seafood stew. It was a recipe that had been passed down through the owner's family for generations, a dish that embodied the flavors and aromas of the Italian coast. When the caciacco arrived, it was a feast for the senses. The rich, fragrant broth, brimming with a medley of fresh seafood mussels, clams, shrimp, squid, and fish was a symphony of flavors, a testament to the culinary heritage of Italy. As Isabella tasted the stew, her eyes closed in pure pleasure. The flavors transported her back to her childhood, to the seaside village where she had grown up, to the Sunday dinners shared with her family, to the memories of love and laughter that filled her heart. "This is amazing," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "It tastes like home." Sam, watching her, felt a pang of longing, a desire to share in her memories, to be a part of her past, to create new memories together. He reached across the table, his hand gently covering hers. "Tell me more," he said, his voice soft and encouraging. And so, Isabella did. She shared stories about her family, her friends, her childhood adventures. She spoke of her first love, her dreams of becoming a chef, her journey to America. She talked about Antonio, about their life together, about the joys and sorrows they had shared, about the legacy they had built. Sam listened patiently, his eyes filled with empathy and understanding. He asked questions, he offered comments, he shared his own experiences, creating a dialogue that flowed effortlessly, naturally, the barriers between them dissolving with every passing moment. As the evening drew to a close, Isabella felt a sense of contentment, of peace, that she hadn't experienced in years. The dinner, the conversation, the shared memories had created a bond between them, a connection that transcended the simple act of sharing a meal. Walking back to her apartment, hand in hand, the cool night air brushing against their faces, Isabella felt a sense of anticipation, of excitement for what the future might hold. The taste of the past, the flavors of her heritage, had opened a door to a new chapter in her life, a chapter filled with the promise of love, of companionship, of a future that seemed brighter, more hopeful than she had ever imagined. And as she looked at Sam, at his kind eyes and his gentle smile, she knew that she was ready to embrace it, to savor every moment, to create a new taste of the future. Chapter 8. The First Frost. The first frost of the season arrived, blanketing Boston in a shimmering layer of white. The crisp, cold air invigorated Isabella, awakening her senses and filling her with a renewed sense of energy. The change in weather mirrored the changes in her own life, the shift from the warm, comfortable familiarity of the past to the exciting, yet uncertain, chill of the future. The upcoming holiday season, usually a time of bittersweet memories and quiet reflection, now held a different kind of anticipation. Her relationship with Sam was blossoming, their connection deepening with each shared experience, each stolen moment, each intimate conversation. She found herself looking forward to their cooking classes, their market visits, their occasional dinners, with an eagerness that both surprised and delighted her. Marco, noticing the change in his mother, seemed to accept her relationship with Sam, albeit with a hint of cautious optimism. He had witnessed her growing happiness, her renewed zest for life, and he couldn't deny the positive impact Sam was having on her. The tension between them had eased, replaced by a tentative understanding, a shared desire to find a way forward for Bella Vita that honored both tradition and innovation. One crisp Saturday morning, as Isabella and Sam prepared for their weekly cooking class, Marco approached them with a proposition. "Mama, Sam," he began, his voice hesitant, "I've been thinking about the menu." Isabella and Sam exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement of the ongoing debate that had been simmering between them. Isabella braced herself for another round of arguments, another clash of wills. "I know we haven't agreed on everything," Marco continued, "but I think I've found a compromise." He presented them with a revised menu, a carefully curated selection of dishes that blended traditional Italian recipes with modern culinary techniques. He had kept the core classics, the dishes that Bella Vita was known for, but he had also added a few new creations, inspired by contemporary trends and seasonal ingredients. Isabella studied the menu, her eyes scanning the familiar names and the unfamiliar additions. She noticed that Marco had incorporated some of Sam's suggestions, subtle tweaks to existing recipes that enhance the flavors and presentation without sacrificing the authenticity. "What do you think?" Marco asked, his voice anxious. He looked from Isabella to Sam, seeking their approval, their validation. Isabella looked at Sam, her eyes searching his. He smiled, a gentle, encouraging smile that gave her the courage to speak her mind. "I like it," she said, her voice hesitant at first, then gaining strength. "I think it's a good balance." Marco's face lit up, his relief evident. "Really?" he asked, his voice filled with excitement. "Really," Isabella confirmed. "It honors the past, but it also embraces the future." Sam placed a comforting hand on Isabella's shoulder, his touch sending a familiar warmth through her. "It's a testament to both of your visions," he said, his voice filled with admiration. A true collaboration. The cooking class that day was a celebration of their newfound unity, a symbol of their willingness to compromise, to adapt, to evolve. They worked together seamlessly, Isabella, Sam, and Marco, their individual talents blending harmoniously to create a culinary experience that was both traditional and innovative. The students, sensing the positive energy in the room, responded with enthusiasm, their own creations reflecting the spirit of collaboration and creativity. The air was filled with laughter, chatter, and the tantalizing aroma of freshly cooked food. As the class drew to a close and the students departed, carrying their culinary masterpieces with them, Isabella, Sam, and Marco stood together in the quiet kitchen, a sense of accomplishment washing over them. "Thank you," Isabella said, her voice filled with emotion. She looked at Marco, her eyes filled with pride and gratitude. "For listening, for understanding, for compromising." "Thank you, Mama," Marco replied, his voice equally heartfelt. "For trusting me, for believing in me, for letting go." Sam, standing between them, placed his arms around both of them, drawing them into a warm embrace. "You've created something special here," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "A place where tradition and innovation can coexist, where family and friends can come together, where love can blossom." The first frost, a symbol of change and transition, had brought them closer, forging a new bond of understanding and shared purpose. Isabella realized that she was not only embracing a new love in her life, but also a new vision for Bella Vita, a future that honored the past while embracing the possibilities of the present. And as she stood there, surrounded by the warmth of her son and the man she was falling in love with, she knew that she was ready for whatever the future might bring, her heart filled with hope, gratitude, and a newfound sense of belonging. The chill of the frost was no longer a threat, but an invitation, a promise of a new season, a new beginning, a new Bella Vita. Chapter 9. Wine and Whispers. The invitation arrived on a crisp, cream-colored card, embossed with an elegant script. "Giovanni Cordero requests the pleasure of your company at a wine tasting to celebrate the harvest season." Isabella held the card in her hands, a smile playing on her lips. Giovanni's annual wine tasting was a much-anticipated event, a celebration of the Italian tradition of La Vendemmia, the grape harvest, a time of community, conviviality, and, of course, copious amounts of wine. She knew that this year's event would be particularly special. It would be the first time she would be attending with Sam, a public acknowledgement of their relationship, a step into the wider circle of her family and friends. She felt a flutter of nervousness, a mixture of excitement and apprehension, but also a deep sense of anticipation. When the evening arrived, Isabella dressed with care, choosing a deep burgundy dress that complemented the rich colors of the autumn season. She added a touch of sparkle with a delicate gold necklace and earrings, a gift from Antonio years ago. As she looked in the mirror, she saw a reflection of a woman transformed, a woman who had rediscovered her confidence, her joy, her zest for life. Sam, arriving promptly at her door, looked dashing in a dark blazer and a crisp white shirt. He held a bottle of wine, a carefully chosen Amarone, a rich, full-bodied red from the Veneto region of Italy. "You look radiant," he said, his eyes filled with admiration. He handed her the wine, his fingers brushing against hers, sending a familiar spark of electricity through her. "Thank you," Isabella replied, her voice slightly breathless. "And thank you for the wine. It's one of my favorites." Giovanni's home, a sprawling villa on the outskirts of Boston, was already buzzing with activity when they arrived. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. The aroma of roasting meats, wood-fired pizzas, and simmering sauces wafted from the outdoor kitchen, tantalizing the senses. Giovanni, his face beaming with his usual jovial spirit, greeted them with a warm embrace.
"Isabella, Sam.
Welcome, welcome. So glad you could make it." He ushered them into the heart of the party, introducing them to his extended family, his friends, his neighbors, a vibrant mix of Italian-Americans and Bostonians from all walks of life. Isabella felt a sense of belonging, of being surrounded by people who cared about her, who accepted her, who celebrated her happiness. Sam, initially a little reserved, quickly warmed to the atmosphere, charmed by the genuine warmth and hospitality of Giovanni and his guests. He engaged in conversations, shared stories, and laughed along with the jokes, his natural charisma shining through. Isabella watched him, her heart filled with pride and affection, seeing him not just as the man she loved, but as a man who was embracing her world, her culture, her community. As the evening progressed, and the wine flowed freely, the conversation turned to Bella Vita, to the changes that were underway, to the new menu, to the upcoming holiday season. Isabella found herself surrounded by well-wishers, people who expressed their support, their encouragement, their excitement about the restaurant's future. "Isabella, I hear you're making some interesting changes," one of Giovanni's cousins, a portly man with a twinkle in his eye, said. "Adding some fusion dishes, eh?" Isabella smiled, her confidence growing. "We're evolving," she said. "Keeping the traditions, but also embracing new ideas." And this handsome doctor, another guest, a woman with a warm smile and a curious gaze, added, "Is he part of the new recipe?" Isabella felt a blush creep up her cheeks, but she met the woman's gaze directly. "Sam is a very important part of my life," she said, her voice clear and strong. The guests murmured their approval, their expressions filled with warmth and understanding. Isabella felt a sense of relief, of validation, of being accepted for who she was, for the choices she was making, for the love she had found. Later in the evening, as the music softened and the conversations became more intimate, Isabella and Sam found themselves alone on the terrace, overlooking the moonlit garden. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and wood smoke. Sam took her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "You're amazing, you know that?" he said, his voice soft and filled with admiration. Isabella looked at him, her eyes searching his. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The way you handle everything," he replied. "Your family, your business, your grief. You're so strong, so resilient, so full of life." Isabella felt a lump form in her throat, her eyes welling up with tears. She had been so focused on surviving, on coping, on holding everything together, that she hadn't realized how far she had come, how much she had grown, how much she had healed. I haven't always felt that way," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "There were times when I thought I would break." Sam squeezed her hand, his touch a silent promise of support and understanding.
"But you didn't," he said. "You found a way to keep going. And you found me."
Isabella smiled, her tears now flowing freely, tears of gratitude, of relief, of joy. "And you found me," she echoed, her voice filled with emotion. They stood there for a moment, lost in each other's gaze, the whispers of the wind carrying their unspoken words, their shared hopes, their dreams for the future. The wine tasting, a celebration of the harvest season, had become a celebration of their love, a testament to their resilience, a promise of a new beginning, a new vintage, a new Bella Vita. The evening, filled with the warmth of friends, the taste of good wine, and the soft whispers of love, had solidified their bond, making it clear that they were ready to face the future together. Chapter 10. Between Courses. The weeks leading up to Christmas were a whirlwind of activity at Bella Vita. Isabella, Marco, and Sam worked tirelessly, preparing for the holiday rush, fine-tuning the new menu, and planning a special Christmas Eve dinner that would showcase their collaborative vision. The restaurant, decked out in festive decorations, twinkling lights, fragrant garlands, and a beautifully decorated Christmas tree, exuded a warm, inviting atmosphere. The aroma of traditional Italian holiday dishes panettone, torrone, panforte mingled with a familiar sense of garlic, basil, and tomatoes, creating a culinary symphony that delighted the senses. Isabella found herself thriving in this environment, her energy and creativity renewed. She embraced the challenge of balancing tradition and innovation, of creating dishes that honored her heritage while also appealing to a modern palate. She experimented with new flavors, new techniques, new presentations, drawing inspiration from Sam's culinary insights and Marco's contemporary ideas. Sam, while not officially part of the Bella Vita staff, became an indispensable presence in the kitchen. He assisted Isabella with her cooking classes, helped with the prep work, and offered his support and encouragement whenever needed. He even learned to make a few of the simpler dishes, his initial clumsiness gradually giving way to a surprising level of skill. One evening, as they were working late, preparing for a large catering order, Isabella found herself alone with Sam in the quiet kitchen. The restaurant was closed, the staff had gone home, and the only sound was the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the soft rhythmic chopping of vegetables. "You know," Sam said, his voice breaking the silence, "I never thought I'd find myself spending so much time in a kitchen." Isabella smiled, her eyes meeting his.
"And?"
she asked, her voice teasing. "And I love it," he replied, his voice sincere. "I love the creativity, the camaraderie, the sense of purpose." He paused, his gaze lingering on hers. "I love being here with you," he added, his voice soft and filled with emotion. Isabella felt her heart skip a beat. She had grown accustomed to his presence, to his support, to his companionship, but hearing him express his feelings so openly, so honestly, still took her breath away. "I love having you here," she confessed, her voice equally heartfelt. "You've brought so much to my life, to Bella Vita." They stood there for a moment, their eyes locked in a silent exchange of emotions, the air thick with unspoken desires, with shared hopes, with the promise of a future that seemed increasingly intertwined. "I've been thinking," Sam said, his voice hesitant about us. Isabella held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew what was coming, the question that had been hovering between them, unspoken but ever-present. "I know it's soon," he continued, "but I can't imagine my life without you, Isabella. I love you." Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes, tears of joy, of relief, of overwhelming emotion. She had waited so long to hear those words, to feel this way again, to believe in the possibility of love after loss. "I love you too, Sam," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. He reached out, his hands gently cupping her face, his thumbs wiping away the tears that streamed down her cheeks. He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers, a tentative touch at first, then deepening into a passionate kiss, a seal of their love, a promise of their future. The kiss, long awaited, was a culmination of their shared experiences, their growing connection, their deepening affection. It was a taste of the past, a celebration of the present, and a promise of the future, all rolled into one. It was a moment of pure bliss, a moment of profound connection, a moment that would forever be etched in their memories. The catering order, the late hour, the quiet kitchen all faded into the background. They were lost in each other's embrace, their hearts beating as one, their souls intertwined, their love a beacon of hope amidst the challenges of life. The space between courses, the quiet moments between the hustle and bustle of the restaurant, had become a sanctuary, a place where their love could blossom, where their connection could deepen, where their future could unfold. And as they held each other, surrounded by the familiar aromas of Bella Vita, they knew that they had found something truly special, something worth cherishing, something worth fighting for. Chapter 11. The Modern Palate. The unveiling of Bella Vita's revamped menu was met with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Marco's vision for a more modern, social media-friendly restaurant was about to be put to the test. He had organized a special tasting event, inviting local food bloggers, critics, and influencers to sample the new dishes and share their opinions with their online followers. Isabella, while supportive of Marco's efforts, felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. She had poured her heart and soul into Bella Vita, preserving the traditions, the recipes, the essence of what her and Antonio had built. The thought of exposing it to public scrutiny, to the potential criticism of strangers, made her uneasy. Sam, sensing her apprehension, offered his unwavering support. "You've got this, Isabella," he said, his voice reassuring. "You've created something amazing. People will love it." His words, his confidence, his belief in her gave her the strength she needed. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had embraced change, that she had collaborated with Marco, that she had incorporated new ideas while still honoring the past. The tasting event was a whirlwind of activity. The restaurant buzzed with energy, the air filled with the chatter of guests, the clinking of glasses, and the tantalizing aroma of the new dishes. Marco, dressed in a crisp chef's jacket, moved through the crowd with confidence, explaining his vision, his inspiration, his passion for Italian cuisine. Isabella, while initially hesitant to mingle, found herself drawn into the conversations, sharing her own stories, her own experiences, her own love for Bella Vita. She answered questions, offered insights, and listened to feedback, her anxiety gradually giving way to a sense of pride and accomplishment. The new dishes were a resounding success. The food bloggers and influencers raved about the innovative flavors, the artistic presentations, the perfect blend of tradition and modernity. They snapped photos, posted videos, and shared their glowing reviews on social media, generating a buzz of excitement around Bella Vita. One food blogger, a young woman with a large online following, approached Isabella with particular enthusiasm. "This is incredible," she exclaimed. "The sea base with saffron risotto is a masterpiece. It's classic Italian, but with a modern twist that makes it so Instagrammable." Isabella smiled, her heart swelling with pride. It was exactly the kind of reaction Marco had hoped for, the validation of his vision, the proof that Bella Vita could appeal to a new generation of customers. The food critics, too, were impressed. One seasoned reviewer, known for his discerning palate and his often harsh critiques, approached Isabella with a surprising compliment. "Signora Rossi," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration, "you've managed to do something quite remarkable. You've updated a classic without sacrificing its soul." Isabella felt a wave of relief wash over her, the knot of anxiety in her stomach finally dissipating. She had faced her fears, she had embraced change, and she had succeeded. She had proven that Bella Vita could evolve, that it could adapt, that it could remain relevant in a rapidly changing culinary landscape. As the evening drew to a close, and the guests began to depart, Marco approached Isabella, his face beaming with pride and gratitude. "We did it, Mama," he exclaimed, his voice filled with emotion. "We actually did it." Isabella embraced her son, her heart overflowing with love and pride. "We did it together," she said, her voice choked with emotion. Sam, standing nearby, watched them with a warm smile. He had witnessed their journey, their struggles, their triumphs, and he couldn't be prouder of them both. He approached them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "You've created something truly special here," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "A place where tradition and innovation can thrive, where family and friends can come together, where love can blossom." The modern palate, once a source of anxiety and uncertainty, had become a symbol of their success, a testament to their willingness to adapt, to evolve, to embrace the future. Bella Vita had not only survived the changing times, but it had thrived, attracting a new generation of customers while still honoring its loyal patrons. And as Isabella looked around the bustling restaurant, at the smiling faces of her guests, at the proud faces of her son and the man she loved, she knew that she had made the right choices, that she had found the perfect balance, that she had created a modern legacy. Chapter 12. Under Pressure. The success of the tasting event brought a surge of new customers to Bella Vita, eager to experience the revamped menu and the restaurant's revitalized atmosphere. The increased demand, while welcomed, put immense pressure on Isabella, Marco, and the entire staff. The kitchen, once a familiar sanctuary for Isabella, became a battleground of controlled chaos. The orders poured in relentlessly, the pace was frantic, and the margin for error was razor-thin. Isabella, despite her years of experience, found herself struggling to keep up, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a simmering tension. Marco, too, felt the strain. He had envisioned a smooth transition, a gradual increase in business, but the reality was far more demanding. He found himself working longer hours, juggling multiple responsibilities, and dealing with unexpected challenges, from supply chain issues to staff shortages. One evening, during a particularly hectic dinner service, the pressure reached a boiling point. A large party arrived unexpectedly, overwhelming the kitchen and the waitstaff. Orders were delayed, dishes were sent back, and tempers flared. Isabella, trying to maintain order amidst the chaos, made a rare mistake. She overcooked a batch of pasta, rendering it inedible. The error, while seemingly minor, triggered a chain reaction of delays and further mistakes. Marco, already stressed and frustrated, lost his temper. "Mama, what happened?" he exclaimed, his voice raised above the din of the kitchen. "You never overcook pasta." Isabella, stung by his criticism, retorted sharply. "I'm doing my best, Marco. It's not easy handling this kind of pressure." Their argument escalated quickly, fueled by exhaustion, frustration, and the accumulated stress of the past few weeks. The kitchen staff, witnessing the clash between mother and son, fell silent, their own anxieties heightened. Sam, who had been helping out in the dining room, entered the kitchen just as the argument reached its peak. He saw the distress on Isabella's face, the anger in Marco's eyes, and the palpable tension that filled the air. He stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "Enough," he said. "This isn't helping anyone." He turned to Marco. "Your mother is doing her best. She's under immense pressure, just like you." Then he turned to Isabella. "Take a deep breath. You've got this. We'll get through this together." His words, his presence, his calm demeanor had an immediate effect. The tension in the kitchen began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of shared purpose, of renewed determination. Isabella and Marco, ashamed of their outburst, apologized to each other and to the staff. They took a few minutes to regroup, to reorganize, to refocus. They worked together, seamlessly, efficiently, to catch up on the orders, to restore order to the kitchen, to salvage the evening. With Sam's help, they managed to turn things around. The delayed orders were expedited, the unhappy customers were appeased, and the dinner service, while chaotic, ultimately ended successfully. After the last customers had left, and the kitchen had been cleaned and closed, Isabella, Marco, and Sam sat together at their usual table, exhausted but relieved. "I'm sorry, Mama," Marco said, his voice filled with remorse. "I shouldn't have yelled at you." "I'm sorry too, Marco," Isabella replied. "I overreacted. It's just been so stressful." Sam placed a comforting hand on each of their shoulders. "You're both under a lot of pressure," he said. "It's understandable that tempers would flare. But you worked through it. You supported each other. That's what matters." They sat in silence for a moment, reflecting on the evening's events. The pressure, while challenging, had also revealed their resilience, their strength, their ability to overcome adversity. It had also highlighted the importance of their teamwork, their communication, their mutual respect. "We need to find a way to manage this better," Isabella said, her voice thoughtful. "We can't keep going at this pace." "I agree," Marco said. "Maybe we need to hire more staff, streamline the menu, or limit the number of reservations." They discussed various options, brainstorming ideas, seeking solutions. Sam offered his insights, drawing on his experience as a surgeon, his ability to remain calm and focused under pressure. The evening, while stressful, had ultimately strengthened their bond, their partnership, their commitment to Bella Vita. The pressure, like a crucible, had tested their mettle, revealing their flaws but also their strengths. And as they sat there, exhausted but united, they knew that they could face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, as long as they worked together, supported each other, and remained true to their shared vision. Chapter 13. Scars and Sauces. The intensity of the holiday season at Bella Vita continued, but Isabella, Marco, and Sam, having weathered the storm of their previous clash, found a new rhythm, a more sustainable pace. They implemented some of the changes they had discussed, hiring additional kitchen staff, streamlining the menu slightly, and adjusting their reservation system to better manage the flow of customers. One quiet afternoon, between the lunch and dinner rushes, Isabella found herself alone with Sam in the kitchen. They were prepping ingredients for the evening service, their hands moving in a familiar, comfortable rhythm. The air was filled with the comforting aroma of simmering sauces and freshly chopped herbs, a backdrop to their quiet conversation. Isabella, glancing at Sam's hands as he deftly diced vegetables, noticed again the faint scars that marked his skin, reminders of his former life as a surgeon. She had touched them before, during their cooking classes, but she had never directly asked him about them, hesitant to intrude on a potentially painful part of his past. Today, however, felt different. The intimacy they had developed, the trust they had built, the love they shared, gave her the courage to broach the subject. "Sam," she began, her voice hesitant, "can I ask you about your scars?" Sam paused, his knife stilling in his hand. He looked at her, his hazel eyes searching hers, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. He took a deep breath, then nodded. "It's a long story," he said, his voice quiet. "I have time," Isabella replied, her voice soft and encouraging. He began to tell her about his years as a cardiac surgeon, about the long hours, the demanding work, the life and death decisions he had faced on a daily basis. He spoke of the patients he had saved, the lives he had touched, the satisfaction he had derived from his profession. But he also spoke of the failures, the patients he had lost, the cases that haunted him, the weight of responsibility that had gradually worn him down. He confessed that he had become increasingly disillusioned, burned out, detached from his own emotions, his own humanity. "The scars," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "they're not just on my hands. They're inside, too." Isabella reached out, her hand gently covering his, her touch conveying empathy, understanding, and a deep, abiding love. She knew about scars, about the invisible wounds that lingered long after the physical injuries had healed. She had her own scars, from the loss of Antonio, from the challenges of running Bella Vita, from the struggles of life. "I understand," she said, her voice filled with compassion. "We all have scars, Sam. They're part of who we are." He looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude, with a love that transcended words. He squeezed her hand, his touch conveying a silent promise of vulnerability, of openness, of a shared journey of healing. As they continued to prep the ingredients, their conversation shifted to the sauces they were making, the recipes that had been passed down through generations, the flavors that evoked memories of home, of family, of love. Isabella showed Sam how to make her grandmother's secret ragu, a slow-cooked meat sauce that was the heart of so many Italian dishes. She explained the importance of each ingredient, the precise order in which they should be added, the subtle nuances of flavor that transformed a simple sauce into a culinary masterpiece. Sam, watching her, listening to her, felt a sense of peace, of belonging, of connection. He realized that the kitchen, like the operating room, was a place of healing, a place where broken things could be made whole, where wounds could be mended, where love could blossom. "It's like surgery," he said, his voice thoughtful. "You're taking raw ingredients, transforming them, creating something new and beautiful." Isabella smiled, her eyes meeting his. "It's like life," she replied. "We all have broken pieces, scars, imperfections. But we can use them to create something meaningful, something beautiful, something whole." The scars and the sauces, seemingly disparate elements, became metaphors for their lives, for their love, for their journey together. They represented the past and the present, the pain and the healing, the challenges and the triumphs. And as they stood there, surrounded by the comforting aromas of the kitchen, their hands working in unison, their hearts connected, they knew that they were creating something truly special, something that would nourish their souls, heal their wounds, and sustain their love for years to come. The kitchen, once a place of stress and pressure, had become a sanctuary, a place of healing, a place where scars could fade and sauces could simmer, creating a recipe for a new life, a new love, a new Bella Vita. Chapter 14. Family Secrets. As Christmas approached, the festive atmosphere at Bella Vita intensified. The restaurant was fully booked for Christmas Eve, and preparations were in full swing. Isabella, Marco, and Sam worked together, their earlier tensions replaced by a renewed sense of unity and purpose. One afternoon, while Isabella was going through some old family papers in her office, she stumbled upon a box of letters, tied together with a faded ribbon. The letters were addressed to her grandmother, Nonna Amelia, in a handwriting she didn't recognize. Curiosity piqued, Isabella carefully untied the ribbon and opened the box. The letters were written in Italian, dated from the 1950s, and signed with a single initial, A. As Isabella began to read them, she realized they were love letters, filled with passionate declarations, heartfelt longing, and a sense of forbidden desire. The A was not her grandfather. Isabella was stunned. She had always believed that her grandparents had a perfect marriage, a love story for the ages. The discovery of these letters shattered that image, revealing a hidden layer of complexity to her family history. She continued reading, her heart pounding in her chest, her mind racing to make sense of this new information. The letters spoke of a secret affair, a passionate romance that had blossomed in their small Italian village, a love that had been thwarted by family obligations, societal expectations, and the constraints of tradition. Isabella felt a mixture of emotions, shock, confusion, betrayal, but also a strange sense of empathy. She could understand the longing, the desire, the yearning for a love that was forbidden, a love that defied the boundaries of convention. She decided to confide in Sam, sharing her discovery with him, seeking his perspective, his understanding. She showed him the letters, translating passages for him, her voice trembling with emotion. Sam listened patiently, his eyes filled with compassion. He held her hand, his touch a silent source of comfort and support. "This is a lot to process," he said, his voice gentle. "I don't know what to do," Isabella confessed. "Should I tell my family? Should I keep it a secret?" Sam considered her question carefully.
"There's no easy answer," he said.
"But I think you need to follow your heart. What does your gut tell you?" Isabella thought about her family, about her sons, about her grandmother's legacy. She realized that the truth, while potentially painful, was also liberating. It was a part of her family history, a part of who she was. "I think I need to share it," she said, her voice firm. "But I need to do it carefully." She decided to wait until after Christmas, until after the holiday rush, until a time when her family could gather together, quietly, intimately, to discuss this sensitive matter. The revelation of the family secret, while unsettling, also brought Isabella and Sam closer. It deepened their trust, their intimacy, their understanding of each other's vulnerabilities. They spent hours discussing the letters, analyzing the emotions, exploring the complexities of love, loss, and forgiveness. As Christmas Eve approached, Isabella felt a sense of peace, a sense of resolution. She had made a decision, she had confided in Sam, and she was ready to face whatever consequences might arise. The family secret, once a burden, had become a catalyst for growth, for understanding, for a deeper appreciation of the complexities of life and love. And as she prepared for the Christmas Eve dinner, surrounded by the warmth of her family and the man she loved, she knew that she was not alone, that she had the strength, the courage, and the support to navigate whatever challenges the future might bring. The secrets of the past, while revealing hidden truths, also illuminated the path towards a more honest, more authentic, more loving future. Chapter 15. A Spoonful of Courage. Christmas Eve at Bella Vita was a magical affair. The restaurant glowed with warmth and festive cheer, the air filled with the aroma of traditional Italian dishes, the sounds of laughter and music, and the spirit of togetherness. Families and friends gathered around the tables, their faces illuminated by candlelight, their hearts filled with joy and anticipation. Isabella, Marco, and Sam worked tirelessly throughout the evening, ensuring that every detail was perfect, that every guest felt welcomed and cherished. Despite the hectic pace, Isabella felt a sense of calm, a sense of purpose, a sense of gratitude. She was surrounded by the people she loved, doing what she loved, celebrating a holiday that held special meaning for her family. After the last guests had departed and the kitchen had been cleaned and closed, Isabella, Marco, Leo, Sarah, and Sam gathered around their usual table in the back, exhausted but exhilarated. They shared a late-night meal of leftovers, their conversation flowing easily, effortlessly, the bonds of family and friendship strengthened by the shared experience of the evening. Isabella knew that this was the moment. She had decided to share her grandmother's secret with her family, and she couldn't delay it any longer. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest, her hands trembling slightly. "There's something I need to tell you all," she began, her voice quiet but firm. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. She recounted the story of the letters, her discovery of her grandmother's secret affair, the emotions she had experienced, the questions she had grappled with. She spoke with honesty, vulnerability, and a deep respect for her family's history. Marco and Leo listened intently, their expressions a mixture of surprise, confusion, and a growing understanding. Sarah, ever supportive, held Leo's hand, her presence a silent source of comfort. "So, Nana Amelia had another love?" Marco asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Isabella nodded. "It seems so," she replied. "A love that was forbidden. But she loved Nonno Giovanni, right?" Leo asked, seeking reassurance. "Of course," Isabella said. "She loved him deeply. But life is complicated. Love is complicated." Sam, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "Sometimes," he said, his voice gentle, "we have to make difficult choices. We have to choose between our hearts and our obligations, between our desires and our responsibilities." His words resonated with everyone present, each of them grappling with their own understanding of love, loss, and the complexities of life. The conversation continued late into the night, a heartfelt exchange of emotions, memories, and perspectives. They discussed the societal pressures of the time, the constraints placed upon women, the choices that their grandmother had made. They also talked about their own lives, their own relationships, their own understanding of love. Marco shared his own struggles to balance his personal life with his commitment to Bella Vita. Leo and Sarah spoke of their dreams for the future, their hopes for a love that would endure the test of time. Isabella, listening to her sons, felt a surge of pride, of gratitude, of love. She realized that her family, while not perfect, was strong, resilient, and capable of facing difficult truths with honesty and compassion. The sharing of the family secret, instead of creating division, had brought them closer, forging a new bond of understanding and shared experience. It had also allowed Isabella to release a burden she had been carrying, to find peace with her grandmother's past, to embrace the complexities of her family history. As the night drew to a close, and the first rays of Christmas dawn began to filter through the windows, Isabella felt a sense of closure, of resolution, of hope. She had taken a spoonful of courage, she had shared her truth, and she had been met with love, acceptance, and understanding. The family secret, once a hidden chapter in their history, had become a catalyst for growth, for healing, for a deeper appreciation of the enduring power of love. And as she looked around the table, at the faces of her sons, her future daughter-in-law, and the man she loved, she knew that she was surrounded by a family that would support her, cherish her, and love her, no matter what the future might bring. The courage to reveal the truth had not only strengthened her family bonds but also solidified her relationship with Sam, demonstrating that their love could withstand the weight of the past and the uncertainties of the future. Chapter 16. The Christmas Rush. The days following Christmas were a blur of activity at Bella Vita. The restaurant remained busy, with a steady stream of customers eager to enjoy the festive atmosphere and the acclaimed new menu. Isabella, Marco, and Sam worked long hours, navigating the post-holiday rush with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Despite the demanding schedule, Isabella found moments of joy and connection amidst the chaos. She cherished the time spent with Sam, their stolen glances, their brief touches, their shared laughter a constant source of comfort and strength. Their relationship had deepened, solidified by the shared experience of the holidays, the family's secret revealed, and the unwavering support they offered each other. Marco, too, seemed to have found a new equilibrium. He was thriving in his role as the restaurant's innovator, his confidence boosted by the positive reviews and the growing customer base. He had also begun to explore a tentative romance with a local food blogger, a development that Isabella observed with a mixture of amusement and maternal pride. One afternoon, during a rare lull in the activity, Isabella received a phone call that sent a jolt of anxiety through her. It was from a prominent food critic, the same one who had praised Bella Vita's revamped menu at the tasting event. He informed her that he would be returning to the restaurant that evening, incognito, to write a full review for his widely read column. Isabella's heart pounded in her chest. A positive review from this critic could catapult Bella Vita to new heights of success, attracting national attention and solidifying its reputation as one of Boston's top restaurants. But a negative review could be devastating, potentially undoing all the progress they had made. She shared the news with Marco and Sam, her voice trembling slightly.
"He's coming back tonight," she said.
"He's going to write a full review." Marco's eyes widened with a mixture of excitement and apprehension.
"This is it, Mama," he said.
"This is our chance to really make a name for ourselves." Sam placed a reassuring hand on Isabella's shoulder. "Don't worry," he said. "You've got this. Just do what you always do. Cook with love and passion." His words, his confidence, his unwavering belief in her, calmed her nerves. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had faced bigger challenges, that she had overcome greater obstacles. She had a talented team, a supportive family, and a love that gave her strength. The evening service was a pressure cooker. Isabella, Marco, and the entire kitchen staff worked with precision and focus, determined to deliver a flawless dining experience. They paid attention to every detail, from the seasoning of the sauces to the presentation of the plates. Isabella, despite her anxiety, found herself in her element, her hands moving with a practiced grace, her instincts guiding her through each step of the culinary process. She poured her heart and soul into every dish, her love for food, for her family, for Bella Vita, shining through. As the evening progressed, Isabella couldn't help but scan the dining room, trying to identify the critic among the crowd of customers. She knew he would be disguised, trying to blend in, observing every detail with a discerning eye. She spotted a solitary diner, a man with a neatly trimmed beard and a thoughtful expression, who seemed to be taking notes on a small pad. Could that be him? Isabella's heart raced, her palms sweating. She focused on her work, pushing her anxieties aside, reminding herself that she couldn't control the critic's opinion, that all she could do was her best. She continued to cook with passion, with love, with a dedication to excellence that had always been the hallmark of Bella Vita. The evening drew to a close without any major incidents. The customers seemed satisfied, the orders were fulfilled without delays, and the atmosphere in the restaurant remained positive and upbeat. As the last guests departed, Isabella, Marco, and Sam gathered in the kitchen, exhausted but hopeful. They had done everything they could, they had given it their all, and now they could only wait for the critic's verdict. The Christmas rush, while demanding, had also been a test, a trial by fire that had proven their resilience, their teamwork, and their unwavering commitment to Bella Vita. And as they stood there, their arms around each other, their hearts filled with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation, they knew that they had faced the challenge together, and that, no matter what the outcome, they would emerge stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. Chapter 17. Letters and Lasagna. Days turned into weeks, and the anticipation surrounding the food critics' review grew. Isabella found herself checking the newspaper every morning, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. The waiting was agonizing, the uncertainty a constant weight on her mind. One quiet afternoon, while Isabella was preparing a batch of her signature lasagna for the evening service, Sam entered the kitchen with a mischievous glint in his eyes. He held a small, cream-colored envelope in his hand, its edges slightly frayed. "I found this tucked away in your office," he said, his voice teasing. "It seems someone has been holding out on me." Isabella's eyes widened in surprise. She recognized the envelope instantly. It was one of the letters from her grandmother's secret admirer, the one she had intended to share with Sam, but had somehow misplaced. "Oh, I forgot about that," she said, her voice slightly flustered. She took the envelope from him, her fingers brushing against his, sending a familiar spark of warmth through her. They sat together at the kitchen table, the aroma of simmering tomato sauce and baking lasagna filling the air, a comforting backdrop to their intimate moment. Isabella carefully opened the envelope and began to read the letter aloud, translating the Italian passages for Sam. The letter was filled with the same passionate declarations, the same heartfelt longing that had characterized the others. But this one also contained a hint of sadness, a sense of resignation, a recognition that their love was destined to remain a secret. As Isabella read the final lines, her voice choked with emotion. "I will always cherish our moments together," the letter said, "even if they are only memories." Sam reached out, his hand gently covering hers. "It's a beautiful letter," he said, his voice soft and filled with understanding. "And a sad one." Isabella nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. She had been so focused on the shock of discovering her grandmother's secret affair that she hadn't fully appreciated the depth of the emotions involved, the pain of a love that could never be fully realized. "I think I understand her better now," Isabella said, her voice trembling slightly. "I understand the sacrifices she made, the choices she faced." Sam squeezed her hand, his touch a silent source of comfort and support. "We all have our secrets, Isabella," he said. "And we all have our regrets. But it's what we do with them that matters." He paused, his gaze lingering on hers. "And sometimes," he added, his voice filled with a newfound tenderness, "secrets can lead us to unexpected happiness." His words resonated with Isabella, a profound truth that echoed her own journey, her own discovery of love after loss, her own embrace of a future she hadn't dared to imagine. The letter, a relic from the past, had become a bridge to the present, a reminder of the enduring power of love, the complexities of life, and the importance of cherishing every moment, every connection, every opportunity for happiness. As they sat there, surrounded by the warmth of the kitchen, the comforting aroma of lasagna, and the shared intimacy of their love, Isabella felt a sense of peace, of gratitude, of closure. The letter, once a source of confusion and anxiety, had become a symbol of healing, of understanding, of a love that transcended time and circumstance. And as she looked at Sam, at his kind eyes and his gentle smile, she knew that she had found a love that was not a secret, a love that was open, honest, and enduring, a love that would nourish her soul and sustain her spirit for years to come. The letters from the past had inadvertently paved the way for a present filled with a love that was both passionate and comforting, a love that was strong enough to withstand the tests of time and the revelations of hidden histories. Chapter 18. The Critic's Verdict. The morning arrived when the food critic's review of Bella Vita was finally published. Isabella, Marco, and Sam gathered around the kitchen table, their hands clasped together, their hearts pounding with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The newspaper lay open before them, the headline proclaiming, "Bella Vita, a culinary renaissance in Boston's North End." Marco, his voice trembling with excitement, began to read the review aloud. The critic's words were glowing, effusive in their praise for Bella Vita's revamped menu, its innovative dishes, and its perfect blend of tradition and modernity. He lauded Isabella's culinary expertise, her passion for Italian cuisine, and her ability to create dishes that were both comforting and exhilarating. "Signora Rossi," the critic wrote, "has achieved something truly remarkable. She has breathed new life into a beloved institution, transforming it into a culinary destination that honors its past while embracing the future. The sea base with saffron risotto is a masterpiece, a symphony of flavors that dances on the palate. The wild boar ragu with pappardelle is a testament to the enduring power of traditional Italian cooking. And the tiramisu, a classic dessert, is elevated to new heights with a hint of amaretto and a dusting of cocoa." Isabella listened, her eyes welling up with tears of joy and relief. The critic's words were a validation of her hard work, her dedication, her unwavering commitment to Bella Vita. They were also a testament to Marco's vision, his innovative ideas, and his willingness to collaborate, to compromise, to create something truly special. The review continued, praising the restaurant's warm and inviting atmosphere, its attentive service, and its commitment to using fresh, locally sourced ingredients. The critic concluded by awarding Bella Vita his highest rating, a 5-star accolade that placed it among the elite restaurants of Boston. As Marco finished reading, Isabella and Sam erupted in cheers, embracing each other in a joyous hug. The tension that had been building for weeks finally dissipated, replaced by a wave of euphoria, of accomplishment, of profound gratitude. "We did it, Mama," Marco exclaimed, his voice filled with pride and emotion. "We really did it." "We did it together," Isabella corrected, her voice choked with tears. "All of us." Sam, his eyes shining with admiration, pulled them both into a warm embrace. "You deserve all the success in the world," he said. "You've created something magical here." The news of the 5-star review spread quickly, generating a buzz of excitement throughout the North End and beyond. The phone at Bella Vita began to ring off the hook, with customers eager to make reservations, to experience the culinary renaissance that the critic had so eloquently described. Isabella, Marco, and Sam spent the day basking in the glow of their success, answering calls, responding to emails, and preparing for what promised to be an unprecedented surge in business. They also took time to celebrate, to savor the moment, to appreciate the culmination of their hard work, their dedication, and their unwavering belief in Bella Vita. The critics' verdict, while a significant achievement, was more than just a professional triumph. It was a symbol of their resilience, their teamwork, their ability to overcome challenges, to embrace change, and to create something truly extraordinary. It was also a testament to the power of love, of family, of community, to sustain and inspire them through the ups and downs of life. And as Isabella looked around the bustling restaurant, at the smiling faces of her staff, at the proud faces of her son and the man she loved, she knew that Bella Vita was more than just a restaurant. It was a home, a family, a legacy, a place where tradition and innovation could thrive, where love could blossom, and where dreams could come true. The critics' words had not only validated their culinary achievements, but had also affirmed the heart and soul of Bella Vita, a place where food, family, and love intertwined to create an unforgettable experience. Chapter 19. New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve at Bella Vita was a spectacular celebration, a culmination of the year's successes, a tribute to the restaurant's transformation, and a hopeful embrace of the future. The dining room was filled to capacity, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement, anticipation, and the joyous spirit of the occasion. Isabella, Marco, and Sam worked tirelessly throughout the evening, ensuring that every detail was perfect, that every guest felt welcomed and cherished. The menu featured a special selection of dishes, a blend of traditional Italian favorites and innovative new creations, showcasing the culinary evolution of Bella Vita. As the clock approached midnight, the energy in the restaurant reached a fever pitch. The sounds of laughter, music, and clinking glasses filled the air, creating a symphony of celebration. Isabella, standing beside Sam, felt a surge of gratitude, of happiness, of love. She had navigated a year of challenges, of changes, of unexpected discoveries, and she had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more in love than ever before. Marco, his face beaming with pride and accomplishment, raised his glass in a toast. "To Bella Vita," he exclaimed. "To the past, the present, and the future." The guests echoed his toast, their voices joining in a chorus of celebration. Isabella and Sam clinked their glasses, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange of love, of commitment, of shared dreams. As the clock struck midnight and the new year began, the restaurant erupted in cheers, applause, and a shower of confetti. Isabella and Sam embraced, their kiss a seal of their love, a promise of their future together. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of family, friends, and the vibrant energy of Bella Vita, Isabella felt a sense of completeness, of belonging, of profound happiness. She had found a new love, a new partner, a new perspective on life. She had embraced change, she had honored tradition, and she had created a future that was both exciting and fulfilling. The New Year's Eve celebration was more than just a party, it was a symbol of their journey, their resilience, their unwavering commitment to Bella Vita and to each other. It was a testament to the power of love, of family, of community, to sustain, and inspire them through the ups and downs of life. After the last guests had departed, and the restaurant had been cleaned and closed, Isabella and Sam found themselves alone on the terrace, overlooking the quiet, snow-dusted streets of Boston. The city lights twinkled in the distance, a magical backdrop to their intimate moment. Sam took Isabella's hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "Happy New Year, my love," he said, his voice soft and filled with emotion. "Happy New Year, Sam," Isabella replied, her voice equally heartfelt. They stood there for a moment, lost in each other's gaze, the silence filled with unspoken words, with shared hopes, with dreams for the future. "I've been thinking," Sam said, his voice hesitant, "about taking our relationship to the next level." Isabella's heart skipped a beat. She knew what was coming, the question that had been hovering between them, unspoken but ever present. He reached into his pocket and produced a small, velvet box. He opened it, revealing a sparkling diamond ring, its brilliance reflecting the city lights. "Isabella Rossi," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "will you do me the incredible honor of becoming my wife?" Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes, tears of joy, of overwhelming emotion, of a love that had blossomed unexpectedly, transforming her life in ways she had never imagined. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Sam slipped the ring onto her finger, its perfect fit a symbol of their perfect union. They embraced, their kiss a passionate declaration of their love, their commitment, their shared future. The New Year's Eve celebration had become an engagement party, a surprise proposal, a moment of pure bliss that would forever be etched in their memories. As they stood there, on the cusp of a new year, a new beginning, a new chapter in their lives, Isabella and Sam knew that they had found something truly special, something worth cherishing, something worth fighting for. The future stretched before them, filled with promise, with hope, with a love that would endure the test of time, a love that was as warm and comforting as the aromas of Bella Vita, a love that was as bright and sparkling as the diamond on her finger. Chapter 20.
Bella Vitaesse Future.
The months following their engagement flew by in a flurry of wedding preparations, restaurant renovations, and the continued success of Bella Vita. Isabella and Sam, with the help of Marco, Leo, and Sarah, planned a small, intimate wedding ceremony to be held in the spring, in the garden of Giovanni's villa, the same place where their love had blossomed during the wine tasting. Marco, inspired by the restaurant's renaissance and his mother's newfound happiness, took on a more active role in shaping Bella Vita's future. He proposed a series of expansions, including opening a second location in a trendy Boston neighborhood, launching a line of Bella Vita-branded food products, and creating a culinary education program that would offer cooking classes and workshops to the public. Isabella, while initially hesitant about such ambitious plans, was gradually won over by Marco's enthusiasm and his well-researched proposals. She realized that he was not only a talented chef but also a savvy businessman, with a vision for Bella Vita that extended beyond the traditional boundaries of a family restaurant. With Sam's encouragement and support, Isabella agreed to embrace Marco's plans, recognizing that it was time to pass the torch, to allow the next generation to take the reins and guide Bella Vita towards a new era of growth and innovation. The restaurant renovations, overseen by Leo and Sarah, transformed the space into a more modern, yet still warm and inviting environment. They retained the classic Italian charm of Bella Vita, but added contemporary touches, such as updated lighting, a redesigned bar area, and a more open and spacious dining room. As the wedding day approached, Isabella found herself reflecting on her journey, on the unexpected twists and turns that had led her to this moment of profound happiness and fulfillment. She had lost her husband, she had faced the challenges of running a business, she had navigated the complexities of family relationships, and she had discovered a new love that had transformed her life. She realized that Bella Vita was more than just a restaurant. It was a reflection of her life, her family, her heritage, her resilience, and her unwavering commitment to love, to tradition, and to the pursuit of happiness. It was a place where memories were made, where relationships were forged, where dreams came true. On a beautiful spring morning, surrounded by their family and friends, Isabella and Sam exchanged their vows, their voices filled with emotion, their eyes shining with love. The garden of Giovanni's villa was a riot of color, the air filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers, the sounds of birdsong, and the gentle murmur of heartfelt blessings. As Isabella and Sam kissed, sealing their union, a wave of applause and cheers erupted from the gathered guests. It was a moment of pure joy, a celebration of love, of second chances, of a future filled with promise and hope. The reception that followed was a lively affair, filled with delicious food, heartfelt toasts, and the infectious energy of a family united in celebration. Isabella, radiant in her wedding dress, danced with Sam, with Marco, with Leo, with Giovanni, her heart overflowing with gratitude and happiness. As the day drew to a close, and the guests began to depart, Isabella and Sam stood together on the terrace, overlooking the moonlit garden, their hearts filled with a sense of peace, of contentment, of profound love. "To Bella Vita," Sam said, raising his glass in a toast. "And to our beautiful life together." "To Bella Vita," Isabella echoed, her voice filled with emotion. "And to the future, whatever it may bring." They clinked their glasses, their eyes meeting in a silent promise of unwavering love, of unwavering support, of a shared journey that would continue to unfold, one delicious dish, one heartfelt conversation, one loving embrace at a time. Bella Vita's future was bright, secure in the hands of a new generation, and guided by the enduring legacy of love, family, and the pursuit of a life well lived, a life filled with flavor, passion, and the promise of endless possibilities. Epilogue. 5 years later, Bella Vita was thriving. Marco's ambitious plans had come to fruition, transforming the restaurant into a culinary empire. The second location in the trendy Boston neighborhood was a resounding success, attracting a younger, more diverse clientele. The line of Bella Vita branded food products, featuring Isabella's signature sauces, pastas, and olive oils, was selling briskly in gourmet stores and online. And the culinary education program, housed in a beautifully renovated space adjacent to the original restaurant, was drawing aspiring chefs and food enthusiasts from all over the country. Isabella, while officially retired, remained a guiding force, a beloved matriarch, a source of wisdom and inspiration for the entire Bella Vita family. She often visited the restaurants, sharing her stories, her recipes, her passion for Italian cuisine with the staff and the students. She also continued to teach occasional cooking classes, her hands, though weathered by time, still possessing the magic touch that had made her a culinary legend. Sam, her devoted husband, was her constant companion, her partner in life and love. He had fully embraced the Bella Vita world, becoming a familiar figure in the restaurants, charming customers with his warm smile and his genuine interest in their lives. He also continued to offer his support and guidance to Marco, helping him navigate the challenges of running a growing business. Marco, now a celebrated chef and entrepreneur, had matured into a confident and capable leader. He had honored his mother's legacy while also forging his own path, creating a culinary empire that was both innovative and deeply rooted in tradition. He had also found personal happiness, marrying the food blogger he had met during the restaurant's revitalization, their shared passion for food and for Bella Vita forming the foundation of their enduring love. Leo and Sarah, now married and with a young child, were frequent visitors to Bella Vita, their son, little Antonio, becoming the newest member of the extended family. Leo had designed the new restaurant locations, blending his architectural skills with his passion for sustainable design, creating spaces that were both beautiful and environmentally conscious. Sarah, a talented artist, had contributed her creative flair to the branding and decor, infusing the restaurants with a vibrant, artistic energy. On a warm summer evening, Isabella and Sam sat on the terrace of the original Bella Vita, overlooking the bustling dining room. The air was filled with the familiar aromas of garlic, basil, and tomatoes, the sounds of laughter and conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the gentle murmur of contentment. Isabella took Sam's hand, her touch conveying a lifetime of love, of gratitude, of shared memories. "Look at all this," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "It's a dream come true." Sam smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the setting sun. "It's your dream, Isabella," he said. "And you made it happen." "We all made it happen," Isabella corrected, her gaze sweeping over the restaurant, taking in the faces of her family, her friends, her staff, her customers. "It's a testament to the power of love, of family, of community." As they sat there, watching the life of Bella Vita unfold before them, Isabella and Sam knew that their journey had been a remarkable one, a testament to the enduring power of dreams, the transformative power of love, and the enduring legacy of a family that had built its life around food, passion, and the pursuit of a Bella Vita, a beautiful life. The restaurant, once a small family business, had become a symbol of their combined love, their family's growth, and the endless possibilities that arise when tradition and innovation are blended with passion and dedication. And as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, they knew that the future of Bella Vita and their own future together was as bright and promising as the twinkling lights of the city they called home. Yendi_the_story